All right, so moving on to the next segment, I'll be sharing my NFC contenders or pretenders list. So, as we did a few weeks ago with the AFC contenders or pretenders list, all teams in the NFC conference that are at 500 or above 500 will be eligible to be mentioned in this segment of contenders or pretenders in the NFC conference. So, starting off with the top team in the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles are 10-1. They are absolutely contenders. They are hands down the best team in the National Football League right now. The record speaks for itself, being at 10-1 at this particular point in the NFL season. They aren't blowing teams away like they did last year. This Philadelphia Eagles team, I don't think, is as special as the Philadelphia Eagles team that we saw last year, and especially around this time last year. They're not blowing out teams like they did last year around this time. They're not as dominant as a team, but they are still picking up a lot of wins. 10-1 speaks for itself, and they're winning with a different attitude, by any means necessary. It used to be smash mouth football last year, run the ball down your throat, play tremendous defense. This year, they still have the best offensive line in football. They still have the unstoppable tush push play, but they're doing it in a different way of winning by any means necessary. They can win decisively. They can win effectively if they want to. They're just like a boxer. You know, if a boxer that's not a knockout artist, they can just keep their opponents away, keep them off of them by winning points by decision. That's what the Philadelphia Eagles are doing this year. They're not blowing out teams, but they're in competitive games and they're winning by any means necessary. And that's the 10-1 Eagles team that we're seeing this year. And as long as they have Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and the best offensive line in football with the most unstoppable play in the league right now, the tush push, they could beat anybody in the league. And that makes me sick to my stomach being a Dallas Cowboys fan. But the Eagles are contenders. Then you move on to the 49ers, who are 8-3. I would have to say the 49ers are contenders as well. Right now, they have the best overall roster in football, hands down from top to bottom. Their offense is stacked with Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. Their offensive line's pretty good as well. Christian McCaffrey has been an offensive explosive dynamite for their running game this year, all year long. When you have to have the center of attention, Christian McCaffrey running the ball effectively, and then you have Brock Purdy playing the way how he is this year, that makes the offense unstoppable to go along with an offensive mastermind and Kyle Shanahan. Then you look at their defensive line. Their defensive line has been absolutely unstoppable after they traded for Chase Young. Now, the defensive line, you don't know who to block. You don't know who to put the center of attention on, because if you put a double team on Nick Bosa, it's just gonna allow others to shine. That defensive line right now has Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Javon Hargrave, Randy Gregory, Armstead. They are unstoppable. It should be illegal what their defensive line is doing. So I gotta give them their credit. They're doing a great job. John Lynch and company building that team, building that roster. I have to say they're contenders at 8-3. So, next team I have are my Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are 8-3, and I have to say they are contenders. And it's not because of how great their defense is. It's because of one player and one particular player only why I have them as contenders. It's number 4. Dak Prescott. The way how Dak Prescott is playing right now, you have to consider them as contenders. And all season long, I've been saying on this podcast, the Dallas Cowboys have the roster to go all the way to the Super Bowl. But it comes down to 2 people on this roster, a part of this organization, and that's their quarterback Dak Prescott, and that's their head coach Mike McCarthy. That is going to be the deciding factor on how deep they go in the playoffs this year. But Dak Prescott helps the Cowboys as contenders because arguably he's playing the best football of his NFL career thus far. He's playing at an all-time high. He looks very comfortable in Mike McCarthy's West Coast offense. He's playing at an elite level, and hands down, he looks amazing this season. Now, obviously, there will be people out here watching and listening saying he's beating up on bad teams. But even if he's beating up on bad teams, and that's what he's supposed to do, but if it was any other quarterback beating up on bad teams and putting up the stats that Dak Prescott has put up in his last 5 to 6 performances, it would be talked about all around the league. So why not give Dak Prescott his flowers for what he's done over the last 6 weeks in the National Football League? Right now, Dak Prescott has a total of 23 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions, making plays with his legs again in the pocket. Right now, to me, he's playing at an MVP caliber level, and the Cowboys will be contenders as long as Dak Prescott plays the way that he's playing. They're contenders on my list. Next team, the Detroit Lions. They're currently 8-3. I'd have them as contenders as well, but I'd need to see more consistency from the Detroit Lions. I think you don't know. Sometimes you really don't know when you're watching this team on a weekly basis which Detroit Lions team will show up. Is it the Detroit Lions team that has bought into Dan Campbell's system, that has bought into the new stages of this franchise, or are we going to get the old Lions that show fight but go and can play inconsistent? That's why I get vibes of watching this 8-3 team over this season, but they still have some work to do, in my opinion. And I think their defense is going to be the reason that holds them back if they don't go on a deep playoff run, because their defense is not good enough to hang with the top teams in the NFC like the Eagles, the Cowboys, or the 49ers. But this team is easily going to win the NFC North. It's an obvious layup with how that division is going right now. And I do believe that winning this division, you're going to automatically get a first round home game in the first round. So nobody's going to want to play this red hot Detroit Lions offense in the first round that has Jared Goff, the 1-2 punch at running back of David Montgomery, Gibbs, St. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown at wide receiver, Sam Laporta at tight end, and they have one of the best offensive lines in football. That's definitely going to be a team you don't want to see in the first round. The Lions have some work to do, but I still do believe that they are contenders. Moving on to the 6-6 Seattle Seahawks. I do believe that they are pretenders. I can't see them as a 6 seed if they get into the playoffs as a potential 6 seed, beating the likes of the Philadelphia Eagles, the 49ers, the Cowboys, or Lions in the first round. I just don't see this Seahawks roster beating any of those top teams in the NFC if it came down to it. Geno Smith is having an average season compared to what he did last season when he won Comeback Player of the Year and got his shine as the starting quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks after they traded away Russell Wilson. But this year, he's been pretty average. Just 12 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and a QBR of 50.1. That's a big drop-off to what he did last year, winning Comeback Player of the Year. And the Seahawks are only averaging 20 points per game. I don't think that's enough to dethrone the top teams in the NFC. I have to say that the Seattle Seahawks are pretenders. And then last team is the Minnesota Vikings at 6-6. I had to say they're pretenders as well. They are missing Kirk Cousins more than ever as we speak today. The defense has actually played very solid this year. I will have to give them their credit for what Brian Flores has done with that defense. Danielle Hunter has played at an elite level as an edge rusher for them this year, playing in a contract year. So the defense has been pretty solid under Brian Flores. But Josh Dobbs, what really concerned me was Josh Dobbs' performance against the Chicago Bears on Monday night, throwing a total of 4 interceptions against the Chicago Bears defense that has not stopped the cold, nothing this year. And it shows me that they aren't ready to be contenders without Kirk Cousins at the helm. And Kevin O'Connell, their head coach, has even said as they head into their bye week, there may be a quarterback change for their next game out after their bye week. So I don't think they're going to if they make the playoffs, I think they're just going to get smashed in the first round. I don't see anything special with this Minnesota Vikings team, especially not having your 2 best offensive players in Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson out on the field right now. I have to say they are pretenders as well. But that is my NFC contenders or pretenders list at this time in the NFL season.